Welcome to Testify. Today we cover the book of Revelation in two parts. We encourage you to read the book of Revelation, as it promises blessings to those who read, hear, and keep its words. Let's begin. John, the disciple who Jesus loved the most, was assumed to be the author of the book of Revelation. The meaning of Revelation in the Greek is apocalypsis. Revelation 1-3. Jesus' words to 7 churches in Asia Minor. John says that this apocalypse is a prophecy. A prophecy is a word from God spoken through a prophet, to comfort or challenge God's people. This book was sent to the 7 churches in Asia Minor. The fact that the Revelation is a letter, means that John was specifically addressing these first-century churches. What we must understand is that, although the book was written to the churches in Asia Minor, it has a lot to say to Christians of later generations, so even if it was written to the previous churches, it's also applicable to us and will come to pass. John says he was exiled on the island of Patmos, where he saw a vision of the risen Jesus, standing among 7 burning lights. The 7 burning lights or candlesticks or lampstands, refer to the 7 churches which the message is addressed to, and the 7 stars refer to the angels of the 7 churches. Jesus addresses the specific problems facing each church. Some were apathetic due to wealth and affluence, while others were morally compromised. But there were others, who remained faithful to Jesus, and were suffering harassment and persecution. Jesus warned them, that a tribulation was upon the churches, that would force them to choose between compromise or faithfulness. Jesus calls the churches to faithfulness, by which they will conquer, and receive a reward in the final marriage of heaven and earth. Revelation 4-5. Vision of the heavenly throne room and first judgment. John's next vision is of God's heavenly throne room, described from many Old Testament prophetic books. Around God are creatures and elders, representing all creation, and human nations, who are giving honor and allegiance to the one true God. In God's hand is a scroll with 7 wax seals, symbolizing the scrolls of the Old Testament prophets and Daniel's visions. Their message was about how God's kingdom would come on earth as in heaven. However, no one is qualified to open the scroll, until John finally hears of the one who can. It's the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and the Root of David, referring to Jesus Christ himself. That's what John hears, but what he sees is a sacrificed, bloody lamb who is alive again, standing ready to open the scroll. John goes on to say, that the Old Testament promise, of God's future kingdom, was inaugurated through the crucified Messiah. Jesus died for his enemies, as the true Passover lamb, so that others could be redeemed. His death on the cross was his enthronement and his conquering of evil. The vision concludes, with the Lamb alongside the one on the throne, and together they are worshipped as the one, true Creator and Redeemer. The slain Lamb then begins to open the scroll, a symbol of his divine authority, to guide history to its conclusion. This brings us into the next section of the book with 3 cycles of 7s, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, and 7 bowls. The 7th seal leads to the 7 trumpets and the 7th trumpet leads to the 7 bowls. Revelation 6-8a. Vision of the Lord's slain servants. The first seal releases a rider on a white horse, often interpreted as representing the Antichrist or a false religious movement. The second seal unleashes a rider on a red horse, symbolizing war and bloodshed. The third seal releases a rider on a black horse, representing famine and economic hardship. The fourth seal releases a rider on a pale horse, symbolizing death and pestilence. The fifth seal releases the cries of martyrs, those who have died for their faith. The sixth seal unleashes a series of cosmic disturbances, including earthquakes, darkening of the sun and moon, and falling stars. Someone cries, "Who is able to stand?" At this point, John pauses the action to answer that question. He sees an angel with a signet ring, coming to place a mark of protection on God's servants enduring all this hardship. He then hears the number of those sealed, 144,000. Now, the number of this army, is what John heard, just like he heard about the conquering Lion of Judah. This multi-ethnic army of the Lamb can stand before God, because they've all been redeemed by His blood. They are called forth to conquer, not by killing their enemies, but by suffering and bearing witness like the Lamb. With this, the seventh and final seal is broken. The seventh seal is unique, as it introduces 7 angels who sound trumpets, initiating the next phase of judgments known as the 7 trumpets. But before the scroll is opened, the 7 warning trumpets emerge, and only then does the day of the Lord come to bring final justice once and for all. The first trumpet is devastation of 1/3 of the earth's vegetation, including trees and grass. The second trumpet is destruction of 1/3 of the sea, causing death to marine life and impacting ships. The third trumpet is contamination of 1/3 of the earth's freshwater sources, making them bitter and poisonous. This is called wormwood. The fourth trumpet is diminishment of 1/3 of the sun, moon, and stars, affecting light and climate. The fifth trumpet is release of demonic locusts from the abyss, tormenting those who lack God's seal. The sixth trumpet is unleashing of 4 angels bound at the Euphrates River, leading to a massive war that kills 1/3 of humanity. The seventh trumpet is the announcement of God's rule and the beginning of the final judgment, including the pouring out of God's wrath in the 7 last plagues. Now the last 7 plagues are called the 7 bowls, which are set off by the 7th trumpet. They are as follows. The first bowl, painful sores break out on those who worship the beast and bear its mark. Second bowl, the sea turns to blood, and every living thing in the sea dies. Third bowl, rivers and springs of water turn to blood. Fourth bowl, the sun scorches people with fire. Fifth bowl, darkness falls upon the beast's kingdom, and people gnaw their tongues in agony. Sixth bowl, the Euphrates River is dried up to prepare the way for the kings of the east. Seventh bowl, a great earthquake shatters the earth, and hailstones weighing about 100 pounds, fall from the sky. That brings us to the end of our first half of the Book of Revelation Bible study. Catch our second part on our channel.